So we just got out of seeing Umma. This is my real Umma. So I thought, since it's since Umma is Korean for mother, my own mom. And what did you think of it?
Oh, it was pretty good. Made me feel like a better mama.
That's good.
Yeah. It kind of makes you feel better about yourself when you watch a movie like that.
You definitely are a better mom than this one was.
It was something.
Yeah, it was. I thought that whenever they were actually doing the more character moments, I thought that kind of worked, but the horror elements were very cliched and kind of, a little bit overdone, anticlimactic, kind of, generic, but I felt like I liked the themes it addressed, and I thought that the performances were good from Sandro and
fantastic. Everybody.
Yeah, they were. So I mean, I do like this more than most of the critics do, but I'm still kind of a little bit more lukewarm on it than she is. But it was still a.
What it was is if you wanted horror, it was like a lot of jump scares that we were talking about. It just seemed to try to be something it wasn't. But when you just took it at what it was, is that this communication between a daughter, her mother, and about that whole thing of being honest about where you're from, what kind of things happen to you. It's just their relationship. It's about relationship between letting go between a mom and her child, adolescent, and what that's like. So yeah, it was really had to throw in some things that just didn't have to have all that horror, really. Yeah,
like they do, and this is like with a lot of horror movies, they do like that overdone, like loud like music that shoots out at you every time there's a jump scare,
and loud,
and they do it even for stuff that's not even a jump scare. Like they just throw that in for whenever she's grabbing something off the wall or stuff like that, and I'm just like, why are they doing this? This is way too overdone. So yeah, there was definitely moments like that, and some of the dialogue, I feel like the execution of some of the dialogue could have been a little bit better, but because there was sometimes like there's that line where she's trying to explain to her daughter or whatever, she's like saying, I was born from my real mother. I'm like, well, duh, no dip, Sherlock. Of course you were born from your real mother. I'm just like, so there's a little bit of dialogue there that was kind of.
There was, yeah. I think she did say something like that.
Yeah.
And whatever it was, we were like, if we were watching a video, we rewound it and said, what did you just say? But there was other things too, like the idea, without spoilers, I mean, things happen when finally you're getting into conversation about the truth, and you think there has to be some kind of resolution here, and then it has this dramatic weirdness in the third act that was so weird. It's out in the field, and anyway, it was kind of, but it was solid for like I would have taken Michael to this for a horror movie to make him think he had been to a horror movie when he was like 6 or 7 maybe, and he wouldn't have had to see blood or I don't even think we just didn't see anything horror. Now he'd been like pooky, like this would have been, so he'd been like, he would have had to have a little light on or something.
It's a PG-13 horror, and so you could actually take your
your kid to
your younger, well, maybe not. Well, maybe not little kids, but you can still take your.
You loved horror.
Yeah, you can still take your,
Like I took him to Signs when he was really young.
Yeah, and
that was so scary to him.
And I remember The Ring too. That was also.
But that really was horror, though.
Yeah, The Ring was horror, and I remember seeing that as a kid, and a few others. Gothica, like there's other ones out there, but did you feel like this movie would have been better if it was rated R, or were you fine with the PG-13?
I think PG-13 is fine. There wasn't enough elements in it to make it R. I didn't see any. Did you?
Yeah. No, I mean I didn't either. But I know
they didn't have sex or cussing.
I know like some people in the horror community, they whenever they see a horror movie rated PG-13, like it works sometimes, but sometimes I know some people in the horror community get kind of nervous about that, because
Oh yeah.
It's like they're like, oh well, that's not going to be
horror.
a full potential horror type movie, and so
no.
And Sam Raimi is a producer on this, guys, but trust me, this is one of those producer credits where he probably just slaps his name on there. Like,
I know, it didn't feel
it's like,
Sam Raimi at
it's
all.
not at all Sam Raimi-esque.
Oh.
It's just he's a producer on it. But
how do you feel about the effects, like of the actual horror effects?
They were pretty. But
they're usual.
It's a low budget film, so I'll give it that. It's not, it's not high budget. I wasn't expecting anything, to be like effects wise too high budget. I just felt like they didn't really need all those effects. Like there's a one with an animal that pops up at one point, like a fox. And I was like, why do we even need a CG this scene? Like, what is the point in it and stuff? So,
yeah, it was disjointed. The storyline itself,
it felt a little.
That part just derailed into something. It just tied in with one part of very small.
And then the
no
ending,
explanation.
and that whole third act was very anticlimactic in the way they wrapped it up. So I was.
That's what I mean. It was just a story.
Yeah, I was a little
very predictable.
Disappointed there, but overall, guys, if you go in with low expectations, I think that because I went in with low expectations. Like I saw the reviews on this film, and I knew they weren't good, but I still wanted to see it because they were.
We like Sandra. She's awesome.
Because it was like bottom of the barrel, like, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go in with those type of expectations, and I wound up,
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like anything to write home about, but it was definitely, good. And, for a fun PG-13 type of flick, it's not bad, I guess. But I will say, because we theater hopped into X, because I missed the post-credit scene. She's never seen it.
Yeah.
And I missed it the first time I watched it. So I was like, oh, I have to see the post-credit scene. So we theater hopped in there. So she went from a PG-13, saw how a PG-13 horror was, to straight up just
in the third act.
And that, because it was the third act. And if any of you guys have seen X, I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys know it's wild in the third act. So she was like, oh God. And it was really
I was like, please don't.
Yeah,
please don't. No, we're doing this. We're going here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was really like, gosh. I kind of wanted to go with him when it wasn't late at night, but I said, wouldn't that be I'd see somebody I know. They'd be like, what are you here for? Oh, I'm here for that thing that's kind of about porn and stuff, or porn horror. But I was like, I just ignored a lot of it. And some of it's hard to ever unsee again. But I think that was a totally different movie. That's what you call a horror movie.
Yeah.
That
one's definitely pure horror
and fun. And
then this one,
as far as I could tell, it looked like it has a lot more to it to develop in the characters and everything. I saw it from the beginning, but
this one is definitely much more tame in comparison. So don't really go in expecting too much horror elements, but just know that like the horror elements probably are the weakest part of it. So if you're going in expecting a horror movie, just know you'll probably wind up being disappointed in that aspect. But everything else is,
What was the one character that you didn't feel like developed fully enough?
I felt like that's another thing too. I felt like really the daughter and Sandra Oh's character, like they were the only ones I felt that one had like maybe any chemistry, and then they were the only ones that had like really any development to their characters. I mean, that the man does a little bit, but his niece was like, or not niece, but his daughter,
was it his
whatever. Niece? So niece, I think it said niece,
whatever.
So his
relative in town.
His niece was like completely underdeveloped. I was like, I didn't know anything about her. I was like, okay, you didn't give me any time with her. And then at one point, she has a family member. Sandra Oh has a family member that pops up and comes over there. I was like, why is this like? you gave me one scene with this person, like, and there's like nothing else like I know about this person.
And her Umma, I thought that was interesting. I wanted more. I've got some in the story, you know, from the character talks about it. That's it. But you look at her and you're like, well, then it's like, I don't know, like, why didn't they talk about this to begin with instead of going through all the theatrics of all the spooky stuff or whatever? It was really weird. Because she explained, it was when she opened up to her mother, her Umma, that was very beautiful, but I wanted more. I wanted more on her childhood than just that. It looked to me like there was more there. What the heck was that creature thing? And how did all of that, what was that man talking about? The relative that he said something about the women in the family. I mean, they don't ever go into the next life, and unless they, I don't know what he said. It was weird. It was just too much weirdness with it. Yeah. That I was like, what the heck was that animal with the weird, anyway, the CGI thing. I just was like, it didn't make sense to me how she could be both. And it's just like they felt like they were trying to do like 2 movies in one. Yeah. And that's kind of, whenever you're trying to do that and you don't have like an experienced director. I think this director, who's a female by the way, which is cool. That's but this director, I think this was like her first movie or one of her first movies or something. She's done pretty good. So she has like no really real experience directing, or not a lot of experience anyways. And so you know, and there are definitely those type of director mistakes that you can tell, but it was one of those where there was, I guess, just so much. There was just some things there on the directing and the loose ends and stuff on the directing front that could have been definitely better if it was in hands of. But if that was my first movie, I'd be proud of it. Yeah, but I wouldn't have released it the way it was. If I have to look again if it's actually her first movie. But she's definitely new. She's not like like big cover guys. And you know, fun little reference for all you TV fans. If you y'all would know what I mean, but this is the weirdest crossover episode of Killing Eve and Atypical that I've ever seen. So. But I've seen Killing Eve, but not Atypical. Yeah, which is but you did say there's very much that scene, and I was like, oh, I wish I'd seen that now. So. And there's even, and for all of you watching Better Call Saul, there's definitely even some parts where I was like, hey, it's like Chuck and stuff like that, you know, because there's a certain storyline in the film, which, you know, that was like, that plot line was a little bit like underdeveloped. I felt like she had this like condition that she has where she's like afraid of electricity or something like that. Said it made her sick.
And it made her that it made her sick. And
she just wanted to disappear off grid, Michael. What she wanted to, she didn't have an electric bill. She didn't have certain things, and by doing so, she didn't have a presence. And it took her uncle like a year or something to find her. And the thing is to deliver, I mean, it was just kind of a little weird. Deliver this box with this face mask heirloom, this urn, this picture, and it's like, I don't know, it was just kind of, looking back at it, X was just a better movie every way, especially thinking you're going into some horror. Yeah. But I never saw the movie Ma. But I never saw that some of those are really creepy, and but
yeah, I mean, you never got to fully watch the entirety of X, but
I could tell we're going though.
But it's one of those that is definitely a much more competently directed type of movie. But that's also from someone who's had a lot of experience in the directing field, so you know, whenever this girl directs more, hopefully she does
what was the name a lot more. We'll look it up and tag it.
But she is Asian, and she is Asian. She's Korean, and that's one cool thing too. Awesome. Is the Korean culture in this.
There were a lot of things to like. I like the conversation in Korean that Sandra Oh has near the end. There's a good conversation. Well, a kind of something that sort of straightens out and helps. But you're like thinking, why? If they'd done that earlier, we wouldn't have had a movie. Yeah. But it was just so weird how all of a sudden like this was going on. But it was I liked them. I liked the characters, the mom, the daughter. I liked the friend, the guy who delivered her stuff. But it was all, I liked them. I even liked Umma, believe it or not, when I saw her sitting, when you actually see her at some point, you're like, oh, this is a person. It's just a person who is very alone, but has driven her family away from her. Had horrible, the way she just saw life was wrong, horrible, and but when she heard how she had hurt her daughter, it really, it was kind of emotional. It was interesting. Made you want to talk about it a little bit more, but boy, you really just, were like, gosh, I'm glad that, it was not horror. Many times I sat there and said, this is just a kind of a drama with a few horror elements, but, kept jabbing at it even until the very end. Yeah. This whole idea, but.
So, yeah.
Anyway.
So that's, if you had to give this a rating, like out of 5 or 10, whenever you would rate it, what would you rate this?
For me? As a horror movie or drama?
I guess as
any
movie as a whole, just your overall score.
I think it was well acted. It just had holes all in it, and a lot of movies do. So I'd guess 3.5 for me. It's not a bad movie. I thought, and I liked Sandra. I liked the work, and I think the actors did a good job, and everything. I'd give it a 3.5.
I'm a little bit more. I'm like right down the middle. I'm like 2.5 out of 5, which is more like a 5 out of 10, maybe even somewhere like a 4.5 out. So about halfway.
Dare do that to your Umma? You bring out this is what not. That's probably why it didn't make any sense why a mother would do this to her child and try to do all this abusive stuff. It's like, Lord, come back. It just there are better reasons to come back from the grave and talk to your loved one. But I was like, you're not doing what I want you to do.
Oh, yeah.
So he's right. 2.5 is really a lot more.
Yeah.
I'll get you later.
But yeah, it's so. That's our thoughts on Umma, guys. Let us know if you're interested in checking it out. A lot of people are not watching this movie. There's like 2 other people way in the back in our theater.
It's
not doing well, guys. So, but even if it's not something you're interested in, or or you don't like, just it's good to support small independent horror films. So I'm
glad I went. I'll tell you that. I am glad I went. It was really a good night out with him.
It was.
Especially about something about a mom that's kind of off the rail.
Especially if you have like Regal Unlimited, AMC A-List, stuff like that, where you can just use that.
Which we do. We love our Regal Unlimited. Regal Unlimited is the only way to live.
So that'll be it for our review, guys. So hope you guys go out and seek this or don't. It's up to you guys, but comment below, let me know your thoughts if you have seen it, and that'll be it. And until next time, stay spooky, my friends.
Stay spooky, my friends.